Hi everyone, and welcome to A Stitch in Time. Today is Thursday, January 5th, 2023, and this is episode 241. My name is Carol. I'm known as Knits and Pearls on Ravelry, and I live east of Vancouver in the Fraser Valley of British Columbia, Canada. Happy New Year! This is the first regular episode of 2023, and it's also the first episode of my 7th year of hosting this podcast. I find that incredibly hard to believe. So thanks to all of you who have been watching since the beginning, and welcome to any new viewers. I hope you all had as good a holiday season as I did, but I have to confess it's been nice getting things back more to normal this week. It was fun while it lasted, but by the time it was over, the family time and holiday parties and travel and rich food were starting to take a toll on me. So it has been nice to have a little more time on my own this week, more time for knitting and more time for recording. I recently recorded a special episode looking back at my crafting accomplishments in 2022 and looking ahead to my plans for the new year. And I'm still in the process of editing that, but by the time this episode goes live, that one will have two. So be sure to check it out if that's something that interests you. Before I get into all the projects that I have on my needles, and there are a few, we have some unfinished business to finish up. So with the end of 2022 also came the end of the Year of the Stash Make-Along, which was taking place in the A Stitch in Time podcast Ravelry group. It also marks the end of the November Personal Sock Yarn Club, so I have some prizes to announce. I always love this part. So in the Year of the Stash, you were a very chatty and busy bunch in December. A lot of you were making up some holiday gifts. And so I drew from posts number 1995 to 2319. And random number generator chose 2141, who is BORKP. That is Peggy from Wisconsin. So congratulations, Peggy. Thanks for taking part in the Year of the Stash. And you have won this wintry project bag made by yours truly. There's also a little stitch marker tucked in here. And it is a little red sweater. Give you a little bit closer look at the fabric. Little animals out in the woods. There are some snowflakes coordinating here, and also pocket and the bottom of the bag is also snowflakes. So Peggy, please send me a private message on Ravelry with your mailing information, including your phone number, which I need for customs, and I'll get this in the mail to you as soon as I can. Moving along to the November Personal Sock Yarn Club. First of all, for the chatter thread, I drew from posts 3 to 65. Random number generator chose post number 18. That is Janet Yarn Taxi, who is Janet from Connecticut. So congratulations, Janet. Thanks for taking part in the Personal Yarn Club. And you have won up to $25 US in patterns that are giftable on Ravelry. So please choose your patterns, drop me a private message on Ravelry, and I will get those into your inbox as soon as I can. And finally, for the finished projects for the November Personal Sock Yarn Club, I drew from posts 2 to 17. Random number generator chose post number 9. That is Knitting Texan, who is, okay, I don't know how to pronounce your name. It's R-I-N-N-E. So it's Renee or Rinna or Rinny. Please let me know how to pronounce your name. and as her Ravatar name may, or Ravelry name may suggest, she is from Texas. So congratulations. You have also won a project bag that looks like this. And it also has a stitch marker in it. I keep saying stitch marker. Some of these are progress keepers, like this one. It is a cute little sheep. So please send me your mailing information also, including your phone number, and I will get your bag out to you. So a ginormous thank you to everyone who participated in the Year of the Stash this past year, whether it was as part of the Year of the Stash chatter thread or the Personal Sock Yarn Club or both. It was just so wonderful to see so much community, and to every time I went on to Ravelry, I'd see there were new posts in the group. It was fantastic. And it was so much fun that I decided to do it all over again this year, but in a slightly different way. So 2023 is going to be another year of stash, and there will once again be a year-long chatter thread called Another Year of Stash, and this make-along will work exactly the same as last year's Year of the Stash. So basically just chat about what you are making from stash. Stash is any yarn, patterns, or fiber acquired prior to 2023, and you have a chance to win a monthly prize. I am also expanding the idea of the Personal Sock Yarn Club into something I'm calling the Yarn of the Month Club. And the reason I did that is that it will include more than people who just want to knit socks out of sock yarn. You can use any weight of yarn to knit a project monthly, but you do have to knit, crochet, weave, or spin a minimum of 200 yards. Don't want to get into all the details. I have posted all of the rules and guidelines in the first post of both the Another Year of Stash make-along thread and also in each month's Yarn of the Month Club. So please familiarize yourself with all of those rules and guidelines, and I hope that both aspects of the make-along this year will be something that you would like to participate in. If you have any questions about them, please don't hesitate to ask. Okay. Let's move on with, it's just knitting this week. I shouldn't say just knitting, but I've been knitting up a storm the last few days and I've been loving it. First off though, I do have a pair of socks that I finished in December. And I believe I did show these partly done on my last regular episode, which I think was mid-December. And if you were watching Vlogmas all last month, then you will also have seen these. So these are the evergreen socks. The pattern is by Madeline Gannon, and the yarn is from Sweet Fiber Yarns. It's the Super Sweet Sock in the Snow and Spruce colorway. This is an 80/20 fingering weight yarn, and this was the first skein of my winter sock yarn club from Sweet Fiber. I had 4 full skeins, 1 to open each week, and also it came with 4 mini skeins. So because the name of this yarn suggested the idea of, snow on evergreen trees, and of course that's what the color represents, I wanted to find a pattern that fit the theme. And so I found this pattern. It was already in my favorites, so obviously I had come across it at some point before, and I thought it was perfect for this yarn. Now I will admit that because the yarn knit up in sort of a micro striping fashion, the evergreen trees are not quite as obvious as they might have been on a solid yarn, but you can definitely see them, and you know what, it's just fine with me. So I knit these on a 2mm needle. They were, I believe, 64 stitches. And what I did when I did, I think the pattern might have called for a traditional heel flap and gusset, but I didn't want to disrupt the micro striping that was happening. And so I did a German short row heel, and I used the yarn from the other end of the ball in order to do that. And in that way, the micro striping continued as usual down the foot of the sock. So I'll bring this in a little bit closer so you can see those evergreen trees on there. I like how the heels kind of almost did like a bullseye effect, and then the same for the toe. So I haven't worn these yet. I think what I'm going to do is tuck them away with the rest of my holiday and winter socks, and I will wear them next year. That, or maybe I'll wear them once, wash them, and then tuck them away. That sounds like more fun. I think that's what I might do. So yeah, there's my one and only finished project. I did complete a number of additional baubles after I recorded last regular episode. If you're interested, there are 3 project pages for baubles, baubles 1, baubles 2, and baubles 3, because there were 3 separate sets of patterns that I purchased for the baubles. They are part of the 12 Days of Baubles by, I always forget her name, it's terrible, Stacy Lewis. Yes, Stacy Lewis. So if you are interested in seeing those additional baubles, you can check those out on my project pages. Of course, if you were watching Vlogmas, you will have seen those too. They were tons of fun to make, and I can highly recommend those patterns. Before I show you my works in progress, I'm gonna have a sip of tea. It's one of my Christmassy, wintry mugs from David's Tea. Speaking of tea, I didn't really plan that segue, but it works perfectly. My first work in progress are what I'm calling my Cuddle Time Cup of Tea Socks, but the pattern is actually My Cup of Tea Socks by Robin Lynn. And I'm knitting them out of a skein of Fiber Nymph Dye Works Mountain Tweed BFL in the Cuddle Time colorway. And this was the first shipment, I think. It was the, put it this way, it was the January 2022 shipment of the Encore Yarn and Fiber Club. So it's also 85% BFL and 15% nylon. The neps are nylon. I realize quite often I take the labels away quite quickly, so you don't really get a chance to read them if you're interested. So I'm not, this is what the yarn looks like in the ball. Again, not 100% sure it was the best choice for a pattern, but I liked the tea theme and I like the socks, so that's all that counts. I'm just not sure if it shows up the pattern quite as well as it could have. So as you can see, it's a stripy colorway, and I do like the way the pattern kind of you know, makes the stripes go up and down here. I can't think. They kind of ripple. I'm trying to think of the right word. And then across the back, there's no pattern, and so they are just straight. You definitely can see the striping really well there. Anyway, I think they're kind of fun. So I've got them both done to the same point. I think I have probably one to two, probably 2 more pattern repeats before it's time for the heel. I put one of my socks on a sock blocker so you could maybe see that pattern better. I'm going to switch to this side because I know that's where the, there you go, that's where the lens is. I like how they look on the screen, I have to say. Anyway, the yarn is beautiful. I've been kind of itching to knit it all year long, and so this was the first pair of socks that I kind of cast on once I was finished with my December Personal Sock Yarn Club socks, or at least I think that's how it went. I'm so mixed up, and I've done so much recording with Vlogmas and everything. I don't even know I don't even know anymore what I did when, but I did work on them in December, I can tell you that. I also have another pair of socks. I'm just gonna flip my page in my notebook here, so I make sure I have all the information in front of me. So let me just reach here. I have things everywhere and I love it. I'm so happy to be just making all the things. It feels awesome. Okay, so I have had this skein of fingering weight yarn in my stash for I think about a year. Maybe I got it earlier this year, maybe last year, don't remember exactly. It's Leo and Roxy, and this is their 80/20 sock, which is called Victorian Christmas. And I love how they write their content. 80% superwash merino, 20% nylon, 100% good vibes. That's awesome. So this is just a beautiful colorway. You can see it's cream with some green in it and then little specks of color. So when I opened up my winter sock club from Sweet Fiber, as I mentioned, there were 4 mini skeins, and 3 of them looked like this. And I thought they went really well with this yarn. And so I decided to knit them together. So this is the same as my evergreen socks. It is the super sweet sock. The pinky red is called raspberry. This yellowy green is moss, and then this darker green is marshland. And I'm gonna cough, so I'll be right back. So I was really torn about how to incorporate the different colors into the sock. Should I do the heel, toe and cuff each a different color? Should I pick one of those colors and do coordinating heels? Should I add, should I use 2 of the colors? I ended up deciding to use all of the colors, and not only am I doing coordinating heels, toes, and cuffs, I'm also striping them. So this is the result, and I love how it's turned out so far. So you can see I used the moss for the cuff. I've been doing 6 stripes, or 6 rounds, I should say, of the main color, and then each stripe of the contrasting color is 4 rounds. And then I was hoping it would work out, and it did, that the heel matches up with this color stripe. And I don't know if it's going to work out that the colors will kind of run naturally into the dark green yarn for the toe, but if I have to knit a few extra rounds of the Victorian Christmas, or knit a couple extra rounds of the dark green in order to make it, where the toe starts, I'm willing to do that. That's my aim, but we'll see how all the colors play out once it gets to be the right length. So I've got that one done, and I also have the second sock pretty much in the same place. And I put that one on a sock blocker so that you could see the heel in the same shot. My needles are in the way. Let's see if I can tuck them in here. That's pretty good. And I did an Eye of Partridge heel just to make it prettier. Oh, there you go. Now I have been doing, where I'm joining the yarns, I've been doing the method of jogless stripes by, on the second round of the color, you lift the row below it and the first stitch of the row below, and you knit the two together. As you can see, they're not exactly jogless. I suspect that blocking will help at least a little bit with that, and honestly, it's just not bothering me that much. I can live with it, so it will be fine. And also, once I'm finished those, they will get tucked away with my Christmas and holiday and winter socks. The best part about it too is I'm going to have enough of the main color left over to knit another pair of socks with this yarn, and I will most likely also have enough of these to do some sort of coordinating, maybe the heels, maybe a cuff, maybe a toe, maybe all three. I'm not really sure, but I love that I'm getting, you know, the most out of these yarns. These minis were 25 grams, so right there is enough for a pair of socks. And then this one was quite a generous skein. I think I marked it down here, how much was there? Yeah, 123 grams. So I've got plenty for another pair of socks with both of those, which makes me happy because I love it. Okay, time for another sip because I've been talking a lot. So another project that you have seen before now, on my last regular episode, I think, or maybe the one before that, is Sean by Elizabeth Doherty. I cast this on back in late November. As a reminder, whoops, the pattern looks like this. It is just a lovely slipped stitch color work sweater. I am knitting it from two colors of Rowan Felted Tweed. There's the label. I'm using, let's see, 117 clay. It's got these beautiful neps of like blue in there. And then also 150 Rage, which also has the blue and some black neps. And I am just a few rows away from splitting for the sleeves and body. So I have just been going like gangbusters on this for the last little bit. Let me just, oh no, I'm gonna lose those. Oh, some of my yarn fell on the ground, but that's okay. Okay, I'm just trying to smooth this out so you can see it at its best. Look at that. Is that not gorgeous? I just love it. I just love it. I'm a little worried. No, I think I'm going to be okay. I was a little bit worried that it was going to be too deep in the yoke, but I think I'm going to be okay. I was also a little bit worried about the neckline being too wide because it is fairly wide on the pattern, and I deliberately started with a smaller size, but just holding it up to myself, I think I'm going to be fine. So yes, loving this. It's just gorgeous, and it makes me want to knit something else in Rowan Felted Tweed. I did do a sweater a long time ago, but yeah, I'm just really enjoying it, and it feels really soft in my hand. Although the one thing about it is, as the name suggests, it's not like a really springy or springy, as I like to say, yarn. It is similar in a way to, well, it is a plied yarn, There are two definite plies to it. Let me see if I can show you that. Of course, now when I want to separate it, I can't. One thing it's fantastic, one thing that is fantastic about it is it does split easily, and I can do wet splice really easily with it. But it doesn't, even though it's spun, it doesn't have a lot of spring to it. And I think maybe the singles might be woolen spun. I'm not a spinner, but I've kind of heard about that. In any case, it definitely has, you know, once it's knit, you can see it has that elasticity, but the yarn itself does not. So it is a little bit tiring sometimes to work on it, but in general, I love it. Just look how pretty that is. I love the different stitch patterns. Can you see them? They're all different. So it's really interesting to knit and fun to knit. And finally, it was not my intention to join in the Hyber Knit Along by Stephen West. And what I mean by that is I was not going to plan my cast on of the Aurora Cabin shawl around the timing of his Hyber Knit Along, which began on December 26th. But coincidentally, I wasn't able to cast this on until December 27th. So I guess I'm kind of knitting along without really knitting along. And I'm just going to take it at my own pace. So I think it was back November, December, I can't remember. I showed you that I had gone through my stash and put together two potential combinations of yarn to knit this shawl from. And I settled on this one, which is hard to see because the plastic is catching the light, but I'm going to show all of the yarns separately anyway, and then I'll show you how much I've done on it. So, color A, I did not actually have enough of this one that I had chosen. This is from Flock Fiber Studios. Hang on. Got some labels hiding here. Flock Fiber Studio. This is the Take a Hike sock in the Frozen Dawn colorway. And I used some of this to knit my Yellow Brick Rodeo sweater last year. So because I didn't have enough, I looked for another yarn that could be complementary. And I found this yarn, see, they're not the same, but they, you know, are kind of similar. This is some leftover yarn that my daughter had given me for my fingering weight scraps. It's Estelle, how do you say that? Arequipa, maybe? It is I think it has alpaca in it. Yes, 65% superwash wool, 20% alpaca, 15% nylon. I don't know if that's gonna show up very well or not. And it looks like this. So I am using this for the for a couple of sections of the shawl, and then I'm using this everywhere else, and I'll point that out when I show you the pattern and the shawl. All right, so that's that. Color B is this skein from Stunning String Studio. I'm trying to keep this thing on my lap. Stunning String Studio, and isn't that stunning is a great word for it. It's Stunning Superwash, which is 100% Superwash Merino, and this is the Plum Pudding colorway. So there's the label, and then the back. That is one gorgeous purple with all those different tones in it. For color C, I've swapped out my original choice for something very similar, but just a little bit more cool toned and a little bit brighter. This is from Ocean Wind Knits. It's the Merino Fingering, which is 100% merino. And this is the Wild Orchid colorway. There's a label. See, this one is actually attached, which I hadn't realized. All right, color D, we're getting there. There are 5 colors. Color D is this really special skein. It's from the Alaskan Yarn Company. I bought it in 2010 when I was on an Alaskan cruise, and I believe I bought it in Juneau, Alaska, if my memory serves me correctly. It is 75% merino superwash, 25% nylon, and this is the Forget Me Nots colorway. So I don't know if these people are in business anymore or not. Haven't looked. There's all the details. But I am so happy to have finally found just the right project for this yarn. It's one of those special skeins I've just been holding on to without knowing what the right project was going to be. And finally, I've had this skein also for a long time. This is Malabrigo Sock in the color, uh-oh, I just dropped it. 1 second. This is color 853 Abril, which I think means April. That's my guess, without knowing that for sure. And I actually have 2 skeins of this yarn which look completely different. Totally different colorway, or totally different dye lots. This one is very deep. The other is much paler. But I had always planned to maybe use them together in some way, but when it came down to it, I chose to use this for the shawl. So now that I've talked all about it, I have to show you. I love how this is working up so far. Okay, I'm just gonna smooth it out so you can get a really good look. Ta-da! Isn't that awesome? So I have to say that in the first and second section here, I switched the order of colors A and B. And I did that because I wasn't sure how much of this color A skein I was going to have, and I need quite a bit of it for later. So I actually think it looks quite striking. And then look at this fun slipped stitch section. Look at that. It's just such a delight to work on, and just see how the colors play together. I love it. I'm gonna bring it really close so you can hopefully get a really good idea. And now I'm on to section 4, which is to stripe these 2 colors together. So I've kind of put it aside for now, and I turned my attention to Sean. But once I split for the sleeves on that sweater and get that established, I'll pick this back up. Plus, with the striping, it'll be a good project for, you know, like watching TV or something. So I'll show you, in case you haven't seen it, I'll show you what the finished pattern looks like. It looks like that. So I'm on this section here right now. And this section here, similar to this first section, or the second section I should say, involves just some alternating between, it's actually color A and then this darker color D. And so that's why I decided to use this skein in those two sections. And then I am using the main skein of color A in all of these slipped stitch sections because they are all the same. So if you look at it, you can't even tell that this is different than this. And that's the idea. So yeah, oh, it's so much fun. This is going to be one of those it gets done when it gets done projects. I'm not rushing it. I don't care if it takes me all year to finish. I just am enjoying it. I think it's so pretty. The thing is I don't really want to put it down, so it might get done pretty soon. Anyway, that's what I've been up to as far as my crafting goes. Oh yeah, I got a couple of other things to talk about. I forgot. I was going to jump right into life stuff, but I've got a couple other things to do first. That's why I write show notes, so I don't forget. Okay, as I will have mentioned in my special episode, I decided to do a personal sock yarn club for myself once again. As I explained in that video, in case you aren't watching it, I tend to be really paralyzed with choice when it comes to casting on new pairs of socks. I have tons of sock yarn, and every time it's time to start a new pair of plain stockinette socks, I just can't decide what yarn to use. It takes me forever, and sometimes I put off casting them on because I just can't decide. And last year's Personal Sock Yarn Club really took care of that, because whatever I pulled out of the bag for that month, I cast on, and it just gave me that motivation to knit that yarn. So what I decided to do is between the Fiber Nymph Dye Works Backyard Bird Watchers Club and the autumn and winter sock yarn clubs from Sweet Fiber Yarns, I ended up with, I think, 10 skeins of club yarn that I hadn't knit. Now granted, some I only received quite recently, but still, for some reason I just don't like club yarns to hang around. I like to use them up fairly quickly, because then I can justify, you know, signing up for a club. And I'm suspecting that Sweet Fiber is probably going to put out a spring club, maybe a summer club. I don't know, but if she does, I want to feel like I can get it and not, you know, knowing that I just haven't, I don't want to feel like I haven't knit all the rest of it. So I put all of those away, aside, I should say. And also I had a couple of skeins of sock yarn that I had bought at Beehive in Victoria, and I had bought a little mini skein alongside them, so I put those yarns all laid out. And the other night when my husband Cameron came home from work, I got him to put them into brown paper bags and staple them up, and he wrote numbers 1 through 12. So I haven't yet decided if I'm going to just open one for each corresponding month, or if I'll just finish skein 1 and immediately open up skein 2 and cast it on. I'm going to reserve judgment on that. I still want to finish up my Victorian Christmas socks before I cast this yarn on, but I thought it might be fun if you and I got to see what's inside at the same time. So let's find out. Boy, he really stapled this, like, it's like 3 staples in the top here. And because it's a really heavy bag, it's hard to open. All right, let's see. Oh, I know what else I had. Actually, I had 9 skeins, I think, of club yarn, and I had my day 25 skein from the Fiber Nymph Dye Works Holiday Countdown Collection from 2022. So unfortunately, I can't show that to you. And I also can't show you the final shipment from the Backyard Birdwatchers Club because it's also in one of these bags. I just couldn't wait for recording to do it. Anyway, are you ready? Oh, I love this one. This is one of the Sweet Fiber skeins that came with the Winter Sock Club. So this is called Sugar Plum Dance. So it's the Holiday 2022. I think I was calling it Winter. So Holiday 2022 Club. I think I'm actually going to do a pair of patterned socks with this. And I think I might choose one from this Handmade Life. She has tons of beautiful, beautiful patterns. And I keep looking at them. So maybe I will pick kind of a wintry one and knit a pair of socks from that. In which case, I probably don't have to wait to cast it on because, you know, I'll have a pair of plain stockinette socks to work on. So, oh, isn't that gorgeous? Oh, yay, I love new things. See, what I love about this, doing the Personal Sock Yarn Club this way is that it's a surprise for me every month, even though I know what I put away. Half the time I forget, and I don't know which one I'm going to pull out each month. Now, I did decide to take a different tactic for the Yarn of the Month Club, and I may change that, but for now I have all of my 12 yarns in a big bag, which is over across the room, so I can't show you. But I did choose my yarn and project for January. I had a hard time doing that, but I finally settled on this beautiful luxury skein of cashmere silk. And I bought this yarn, I think it was 2007 or 8, and I went to Toronto for the in part to go to the Knitters Frolic, and this yarn was being sold as a kit with this pattern, this Starry Night scarf, which I think I started and got bored very quickly. So I just see the price tag from it, reminded of just how much this cost. So this is from Filatura de Crosa. It is the Golden Line Superior, and it is 70% cashmere, 30% silk. And it is unbelievably soft and luxurious. I don't know if that's gonna pick up in this lighting. Let's see if I put it on this side. You can see there. Hard to read. I think that's blurry. In any case, this is color 12, which is, it's picking up pretty well, but it's got more brightness and richness to it. That's maybe a better look. It's not quite as gorgeous on screen as it is in real life. It's got almost like a purpley tone to this blue. So I bought some beads to go with this yarn. They've got this same color on one side, and they're kind of like diamante on the other. Two little packages of them. And after much consideration, I am going to attempt Pretty Thing by Stephanie Pearl McPhee. She knit this cowl out of a lace weight yarn years and years and years ago. I remember when she wrote about it on her blog, and so I think that would be a really nice project for this. So I'm hoping. I definitely have enough yarn. I'm hoping that the yarn is not too fine. if I cast it on and I find that it's not big enough around, I should have enough to cast on another lace repeat to make it bigger. But I think it might be okay. So that is going to be my Yarn of the Month Club project for January. We're already almost a week in, so I'd better get cracking on it. Although, once again, we do have 2 months to work on each of our Yarn of the Month Club projects, just like the Personal Sock Yarn Club. Because face it, we have other things we also want to be working on, right? All right, that is it for all the yarny stuff. As for life, well, holidays. I think the last time I recorded was mid-December. The following week, my mom and my sister and her husband from Toronto arrived. There was a little bit of drama with the travel. First of all, my mom was supposed to come down the Friday before Christmas, and my oldest sister and her husband were going to go get her. She lives about a 3-hour and 15-minute, 3.5-hour drive from where I am. And 3 of my other sisters and their husbands also live in the same city where I do. So the weather was really iffy. We had a lot of snow this year, and wind and freezing rain and all those awful things. And so instead of going on the Friday, they decided to go up on Thursday. And unfortunately, it meant that they missed their curling banquet, but they decided of the 3 days, the 22nd, 23rd, and 24th, it was by far the safest. And they were very wise to do so because the next day was not nearly as good a weather. So, so Mom ended up arriving a day early, and she stayed here for about half the time. And then my sister and her husband from Toronto were going to stay here the entire week. And there were a lot of problems with flights. I'm sure you've heard all about it all over the place. And they ended up leaving Toronto about 2 hours later than they were supposed to. And then they found out that their flight from Calgary to here was delayed a couple hours. And then it got delayed more, and then it got delayed more. And finally, they were supposed to arrive about 7:15 p.m. on Thursday, the 22nd. And they ended up getting in just before midnight. And they were one of the last planes that flew into Abbotsford Airport that night. Abbotsford is one city over, closer to Vancouver from where I live. And because of all the snow and bad conditions, they weren't going to be accepting any more flights. So we have like messenger group, family messenger group. There were a lot of messages flying back and forth all evening as we were keeping an eye on the weather and keeping an eye on their flights. And thankfully, they were able to make it through. Now, Cameron and I were planning to go pick them up and bring them back here. But Cameron had to work the next day. And as the evening wore on, he was just getting more and more tired. And I just mentioned, I think my sister, Toronto sister, said something about poor Cameron. I know he has to work tomorrow. And I said, yeah, he's pretty beat. He's had a busy week. And then my younger sister ended up phoning and saying that she and her husband would go pick them up instead. They didn't have to work. They, they had the evening free and didn't have to worry about getting up the next day. And so that was so wonderful. Immediately, Cameron, he's not usually good at accepting things, but he was very grateful and agreed right away, and then said, well, I'm going to bed then. And I'm really glad he had that ability to do that. So on Friday, because my mom had come a day early, she had planned to do her baking on Thursday. So instead, she did some baking here on Friday. I did a little bit of baking myself. The house just smelled wonderful. And then on Christmas Eve, again, because of weather, plans were kind of fluid. So we had already known that our daughter's family and that our younger son were going to come and join us for Christmas Eve. We were just going to do appetizers and exchange gifts with our daughter's family. And then, as it turned out, our older son and his wife decided not to go into Christmas with her side of the family because it's just too far and the weather was unpredictable and all of that. So they ended up joining us too. So it was really great. I had our whole family together Christmas Eve, except for our older granddaughter because she went to spend Christmas with her mom. But it was just fantastic to all be together unexpectedly. And then the next day, the two, I call them boys, our two sons and daughter-in-law came over in the morning to exchange gifts. And then they came back for dinner that night. So there were, I guess, 8 of us around the table. Yeah, 8 of us. And we had a really nice turkey dinner. My sister and husband from Toronto are vegetarian, so my sister made a really lovely mushroom risotto. Yeah, we just had a really, really nice dinner. And then on Boxing Day, we ended up driving my mom in to go see one of her sisters. She had one sister who passed away this fall. And the sister that we visited, this aunt, was quite close to her, and she's been finding it difficult. Not only did she lose her really close sister to her, but also her husband's been in the hospital, I think for 5 weeks now. And so she was just having a tough time. And so Cameron and I drove my mom to go see her. So we had a good visit with her. And I think my mom felt better for having seen her, and I know my aunt appreciated the company. And then on the 28th, we had a huge family gathering with my side of the family, and us sisters and husbands exchanged our gifts. We always draw names, so that was fun. My mom gave us all of her things, and then we did that before it was open to the general family because we knew it would be very crowded once everyone got there. There ended up being, I think, 31 of us in all. And there's still a few that couldn't make it. I think we were 5 short. Anyway, we just did appies also for that. Everyone brought something, and it was just so good to be all together again because we haven't gathered like that for a couple of years now. And we did our usual Christmas pie where we used to limit it to $5 gift. We upped it this year to $10. And my 2 nieces were reunited to hand out the Christmas pie presents, and that's always really good for a laugh. I think I was looking forward to that the most this year of anything, and they did not disappoint. So I guess it was the next day. We left my mom at my sister's house that night, the place where the party had been held, and then the next day my Toronto sister and her husband were due to fly out. And once again, they were delayed and delayed and delayed. Finally, I think they finally were able to fly out, I think just around 6 p.m. And then they were delayed. They ended up having to rebook their flights and take an extra flight in between. They eventually got home in the wee hours of the morning. Unfortunately, their luggage did not come with them, so they didn't get it till I think late the next day. But it did all show up. Everything was fine. They got home safely, but really tough for them, both coming and going to have all those flight delays and uncertainty because of weather and all of that. But yeah, thankfully everything worked out. And then there's no rest for the weary. The very next morning, we got on the ferry, went over to Vancouver Island to go visit Cameron's family. So we stayed a couple of nights with his brother and sister-in-law, and they live just a few minutes away from Cameron's mom. She's in an extended care facility. She'll be turning 98 in April. So we went and visited her on the way from the ferry to my in-laws' place, and then the next day the four of us took her out for lunch at a restaurant that's just basically across the street from where she lives. So we had 2 good visits with her. We had a very quiet New Year's Eve with my brother-in-law and sister-in-law, and then we caught the 11 o'clock ferry to come home on Sunday night, New Year's Day. And then we had an entire day to ourselves with no jobs except we did take down the outdoor Christmas lights, but that only took us maybe half an hour. We were supposed to curl that night, and neither of us really felt like going, but about, I don't know, maybe 2 hours before we were supposed to curl, we got a text to say that the other team had forfeited it, so we didn't have to go. And I have to say, it was just like, yes! So we had an entire day just to recharge, rest and recharge before Cameron headed back to work on Tuesday morning. And I got back to work myself with a whole pile of laundry and all of that stuff, but it feels good now, as I said at the beginning of the episode, just to get back into a routine again. All of this family time is wonderful, and I really did enjoy it, but I was ready just to get back to real life. So that's what we're doing. We are on Saturday taking our youngest granddaughter shopping. We gave her some money for her birthday, which is on December 30th. Both our daughter-in-law and our younger granddaughter share the same birthday. So we thought this year it might be fun to give her some money, take her shopping, let her pick something out. So we're going to do that on Saturday and then take her out for lunch. Other than that, no really plans out of the ordinary. Just get back to curling next week. Oh, actually, we won't be getting back to curling next week because our rink is holding the BC Provincial Playdowns for our national men's and women's championships. So actually, we don't have curling next week, which again is probably just fine with me, and I'll look forward to it the week after. So lots of crafting time in my future. I'm gonna cast on a new pair of socks, gonna cast on my pretty thing. I'm going to maybe warp my loom. I'm just reveling in all of this after the holiday crafting time, and I hope you are too. I didn't write down anything for something good, but I'm going to call that my something good for this week. The January after the holiday rush return to normal. I hope you're feeling it too, and I hope you're able to get some more time for some crafting in your life. All right, thank you so much for watching. Happy New Year once again, and I hope to be back again next week with some new things to show you. So take care until then. Bye.